Bill Gerlach?
Nina seems to be on, but she's muted.
Okay, I can't see anything. I had to shut the Google off.
Yeah, I just saw she popped up.
Thank you. I'll go back to her then. Brian Keeler?
Brian's not able to
Kath
join.
Kira?
Here.
Sarah Sterling?
Here.
Nina Finger?
I'm here.
Thanks, Nina.
That's 4.
I'm going to ask for Bill Galush or Bill Gerlach one more time. Okay, you have 4 people and a quorum.
Okay, we're going to call the Columbia County Resource Corporation meeting to order. First item would be I'm going to need a vote on the draft minutes from October 6th, 2020. Is there any discussion? If not, I'm going to need a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Second? I'll second
I'll
it.
second them.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, yes. Next, we have treasurer's report. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Columbia Resource Corporation is a organization that was created by the New York State Legislature, as you know, for the purpose of assisting not-for-profit organizations with tax-exempt financing. In the past, we have helped organizations such as Columbia Memorial Hospital and others. At this point, we do not have sufficient funds in the account, Mr. Chairman, to continue operations, but because this entity is important on occasion for some of our larger not-for-profits, as you know, Columbia Economic Development Corporation is willing to make a grant that will enable us to continue to pay our bills, which consists of our audit and our insurance. And as the board can see, from the budget, that we have assets of $2,600, and this year our expenses were $4,500, $2,000 in audit fees, about $1,000 in insurance, and $200 miscellaneous. I think the consensus of the CEDC board and this board for Columbia Resource Corporation is that it's a tool in the toolkit that if we do not continue to sustain it with a grant from CEDC, we would end up losing it, and we would not get it back because the legislature would not recreate it for us. And it has been very helpful to the hospital from time to time over the years. So while we have $450 in the bank, CEDC has budgeted grant funding to cover the costs for next year. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but that's the treasurer's report.
Has anyone got any questions? I think we've been over this a couple times before. If not, I need a motion to accept the treasurer's report as read.
Sterling, motion to approve.
Second.
Bob Galuccio, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next on the agenda, we have committee report. It'd be the audit committee.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The audit committee is presenting to the board for approval a letter from UHY, formerly PKB.
Patterson Koski.
Yeah, Patterson Koski, for the 2020 audit. It's an engagement letter. It's at the same $2,000 fee as last year, no increase. And it's recommended to the committee, to the full board for approval.
Okay, everybody's received that, I believe, via email. And if there's no questions, I would need a motion to accept the audit engagement letter. Someone make a motion?
I'll make the motion, but are we having also a meeting of the audit committee?
No, sir, we're taking it right to the full board because
Okay,
of the fact that it's it's a standard letter. There's no change in fee, so we felt that bringing it to the full board directly was appropriate.
all right, just want to make that clear. I'll make the motion.
Second? I'll second.
I'll
All those in
second.
favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, administrative director's report.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing further to report.
Okay, is there anybody else has any other business for CRC? If not, we're gonna, I need a motion to close the meeting.
Mr.
So
Chairman,
moved.
if you could ask for public comment first, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. Yep. And is there any public comment on CRC? None? If not, I need a motion to close the meeting.
Bob Galuccio, so moved.
Second?
Sterling, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving right along, we're gonna get into the, we're gonna open up the Columbia County, the IDA, Industrial Development Agency meeting. And the first thing on the agenda would be our draft minutes from October 4th, 2020, October 23rd, 2020. Everybody's read them. Is there any discussion on those minutes? If not, I'll need a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make that motion. Sterling.
Second. I'll second it. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Next up, I have treasurer's report. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Moving to our treasurer's report. We have total assets of $119,436. Our current liabilities include $58,000 in escrow accounts in connection with the Route 9 Realty and BAC sales project. We also have $20,000 in liabilities representing sales or representing mortgage payments on land that we sold on behalf of the county that is due to the county at the end of the year. So we have total liabilities of $78,000, leaving us with a unrestricted fund balance of $65,000, Mr. Chairman. Are there any questions? If not, we can move to the P&L. We've had total income this year of $10,942, compared to a budget of $51,800. The $40,000 below budget represents the fact that with COVID-19, we did not see the development project income that we had anticipated, and we are hopeful that certainly at least one of the projects, if not two, that were contemplated and budgeted for this year, manufacturing projects would be commenced in 2021. On the expense side, we've had total expenses of $35,000 versus a budget of $54,000, so we're $18,700 below budget. The net ordinary income is a negative $24,000, and we had budgeted a negative $2,600. So we are below budget, but it's because of the fact that the projects that were scheduled to close this year did not come to completion. And we also processed $134,000 this year of pilot payments on the two projects that are in escrow. And that $134,000, as it's shown on the financial report, is a direct pass-through to the three municipalities where those projects were located on a percentage basis pursuant to the terms of the pilot agreement based on the tax rates of each of the respective towns. So our net income through October is 24,723, Mr. Chairman. Are there any questions on the P&L?
No questions. I'm gonna need a motion to accept the treasurer's report as read.
Sterling, motion.
Second,
Bob Galuccio, second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next up, we're gonna do the administrative director's report.
Mr. Chairman, if we could do the audit committee engagement letter, so that requires a vote, and we need to have it completed so that we can engage the auditor, so we're in compliance with the New York State Authority Budget Office.
All right, sure.
And
I was gonna do that.
And again, it's the exact wording from last year, if you reviewed the agreement, and it's the same price, and that's the $79.50 for the audit. You know, that's very the cost of the audit is based on the complexity of the compliance review, and we have looked at the competitive pricing on this over the years, and this is the same price as last year. And you know, there are a number of requirements that the Authority Budget Office imposes on the auditors that you would not find in a private business, which, you know, does make it a higher audit fee than you might expect for an organization that has had limited business this year. Is there a motion for the? We would recommend that the board consider a motion to approve the audit letter as submitted.
Does someone make a motion?
Sterling, I'll move.
Second? I'll
Bob
second.
Galuccio, second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Now we'll do the administrative director's report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We've modified the we modified the agenda so that we could move the discussion of solar projects in Columbia County to the top of the agenda rather. We want to welcome those members of the public who are with us this morning, particularly in connection with solar projects generally, but more specifically, the Shepherd Run project in Copake. I'd first like to clarify the fact that this meeting was not scheduled to be held to approve anything. I think there was a miscommunication out there that somehow the IDA was going to consider a pilot for the Shepherd Run project at today's meeting. The IDA, which meets every other month, is following suit with the Board of Supervisors informational and educational process on the solar projects generally as it relates to the real property tax laws, and it relates to both Article 10 and the new Section 94C in terms of siting. With respect to the Shepherd's Run project, the developer has not, I repeat, not submitted an application to the IDA. And in the 2 phone conversations that I've had with them in the last 6 months, they have not indicated their intent to do so. So I think that in fairness to the IDA, we're not running off in the middle of the night trying to approve something. They haven't even come to us for that consideration. Having clarified that, I do think that with the proliferation of solar projects, both small and utility size, the IDA the chairman has asked me to review both the real property tax aspects of solar and the issues relating to siting, and then to have a discussion by the members of the board, to have input generally on these issues from those members of the public who are with us today, and certainly those who are specifically interested in the Shepherd Run project. We're happy to hear specifics from you. We've received approximately 38 emails on the Shepherd Run project and 13 letters. Those of you who sent emails, I did respond to you clarifying the fact that no application had been submitted, no action was anticipated, and welcome you to join today's call. And I thank you not only for your letter and your input, noting your strong opposition to that project, but also your participation in today's meeting, and invite you to participate in future meetings. With respect to the governor's energy policy, he has now made it much more aggressive in an attempt to meet the goal of 50%, or I guess his initial goal was 50% by 2030. I guess he's now up to 70% by 2030 of having all electric generation in the state generated from renewables. That's a tall order. I have heard that if you divide that by 62 counties, it's not as big as it sounds. But again, the state has, in an effort to advance that agenda, has created incentives above and beyond the state and federal tax credits for these projects to attempt to meet that goal. The real property tax law 487 provided a 15-year real property exemption for the increased value of certain renewable energy systems, including solar. It applies to all systems and sizes, from the residential panel on someone's home roof to the utility scale size of similar to what the Shepherd Run project represents. The school board, town board, and the county board can each opt out of the 15-year exemption by a local law, but you may not have partial opt-outs, meaning you can't opt out for one size project over another. If you opt out, you still have the ability to negotiate a pilot agreement at the municipal level that would allow jurisdictions to capture the tax revenue otherwise exempt for 15 years under 487. Any tax payment that is negotiated at the municipal level does not involve the Industrial Development Agency. It is negotiated directly between the applicant and the taxing jurisdiction. In certain counties, taxing jurisdictions have asked the IDA to assist with negotiations or to serve as an to provide administrative support in collecting and dividing up the money. In addition, it's important to remember that with respect to solar projects, the exemption is only on the increased value to the property. And even if it's tax exempt, or if a jurisdiction enters into a pilot, the impact is that the underlying land continues to pay taxes based on the then current assessment. One addition, because as you know, town taxes here are the smallest percentage between the three taxing jurisdictions, with 50% or more going to the school district. In certain communities, they have negotiated a host community agreement that can supplement the pilot, allowing the town to receive additional revenue, infrastructure investments, support for local improvement projects or equipment. And that's negotiated in conjunction with or concurrently with the pilot. And that's to recognize the fact that the impact on a project is primarily in the town. Although the way the pilot, or the way our taxing jurisdictions and work, as I said, more than 50% generally goes to the school district. And most pilots that the IDA has done distributes the pilot payments based on the percentage that each of the taxing jurisdictions receives, would have received under their existing real property tax rates. Moving to the permitting system, the larger projects are subject currently to Article 10, which is the siting of large-scale renewable projects. And that is, Article 10 is the model and the regulatory and legal structure put in place for utility projects. The large-scale energy projects greater than 25 megawatts would be permitted under the Section 10 of the Public Service Law. It was established many years ago to review and permit all major generation facilities, both renewable and conventional. To date, statewide, the siting board has approved 8 solar projects, but there are over 50 pending before them. To accelerate this process, the governor and the legislature last year passed Section 94C, setting up the Office of Renewable Energy Siting. This law is currently going through a public hearing process on its proposed rules and regulations, and this law outlines a much faster and streamlined approval process, and in certain situations has the ability to override local home rule control. And that's one of the concerns that each municipality that is dealing with these issues at the town level, both from zoning, planning, and other traditional local law and planning and development restrictions, has to deal with. There are communities across the state who have taken action to limit all solar projects. There are counties where certain towns want projects and others don't. And I think it's a issue that we have taken a look at some of the ways other counties in the state have dealt with these projects. At this point, with the exception of Shepherd's Run, we have primarily seen 5 megawatt or smaller projects in the county. That's primarily the result of the fact that we only have 3 substations in the county that are large enough to take much more than any more than 5 megawatt projects, where the 5 megawatt projects can be put into the local utility distribution system. I think that generally it's 6 acres per megawatt. So as you get into these utility grade projects, they're upwards of 25 megawatts. There's projects that could go into the $100 million price range. and obviously the footprint of those projects can get extremely large, and that's one of the major concerns that municipal entities and IDAs around the state have heard in opposition to such projects. So I think, that I hope helps to set the stage. I can provide you with a PowerPoint that gives more detail, but in the first instance, it wasn't intended for IDAs to be involved in the real property tax law aspect or the siting of these projects. As you know, the IDA by statute has the ability to provide three benefits: a mortgage recording tax exemption, which is 1.25% of any mortgage placed on a property; a sales tax exemption, which represents an 8% savings on a traditional project that for aspects of the project that are subject to sales tax, and third, a pilot agreement, utilizing more often than not a uniform pilot policy standard incentive. One interesting part of solar is on the sales tax exemption, the state has already eliminated the sales tax. So the IDA's ability for a project that came through the IDA would only be for the 4% local share of the school tax, of the sales tax. Again, if a community is approached by a developer on a solar project and 3 taxing jurisdictions do nothing, then the 15-year exemption is in play, with the exception that within 60 days of receiving their permitting from the state on their interconnection, they have to notify the municipalities requesting whether they want to pilot or not. On the smaller projects, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority has created a toolkit that assists municipalities in determining what the payments under those pilot agreements should be. On the larger projects, over 25 megawatts, the state does not provide at this point any guidance on what those tax payments should be. In a case where a community opts out, it creates a situation where projects that are acceptable to a community, or are small, or are on the roof of someone's garage, would be excluded if the community opts out. And so I know Supervisor Sterling is a member of the IDA, and she has, along with her colleagues at the Board of Supervisors, been looking at this as it relates to solar projects countywide and the Shepherd Run project in particular as it relates to copay. At this point, we are aware of, we've been involved in 5 or 6 small 5 megawatt projects or less. The IDA did finance 5 years ago the Sunstream solar project in Greenport. It was a $12 million project. They did not need a pilot because at that point, no town had opted out, and no town indicated an interest in having a pilot, or no municipality expressed an interest within the 60-day window of wanting a pilot. So they received the full 15-year state exemption. They did receive benefits in terms of a mortgage recording tax and the sales tax, half of the sales tax, the local sales tax portion. It's interesting that in some counties, there's no real benefit to go to the IDA because the equipment in many places is being financed by the equipment manufacturer with a UCC1, not a mortgage. So the added cost of an IDA deal in terms of legal and administrative costs, don't make it economically viable for a project to approach an IDA for these types of large projects. As I said, we have not had any applications submitted for projects over 25 megawatts. We have not had any other projects than the one 5 years ago request or submit an application to us. So I think that there's numerous steps between the announcement of a proposed solar project that the developer would go through before they would consider coming to the IDA because of the added administrative and financial cost of doing so. Having said that, one of the issues is to what extent where a community is not interested in the project or wants full taxes in the project or doesn't want the project to receive a 15-year exemption, could a developer go around that decision and attempt to use the IDA to thwart or to overcome the local opposition? I think that Columbia County has long been a home rule county, as evidenced by being one of a handful of counties that still operates under the Board of Supervisors form of government. And I think that in my time here, I've seen great respect and temperance on the part of leadership throughout the county to interfere in any local town issues. Having said that, there are towns that want large solar projects and feel that they are in a situation where through their zoning and planning and comprehensive plan that it's possible to balance the need to address climate change with projects that are of a size and of a location that that town finds it acceptable. So I think it's, there has been a request to the Board of Supervisors to opt out. I will leave it to Supervisor Sterling or Chairman Morrell to address that issue. And at this point, I think it's important because we have now 4 or 5, we're aware of 4 or 5 other large projects. And we are being contacted by those in opposition to the Shepherd Run project. So I think that, it's more than timely that we begin this discussion to see, being the entity of last resort, when you look at all the steps in the process, how does this board want to position itself to assist those towns where they're wanted and not be a vehicle for someone to go around a town that doesn't want it. Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to you for board discussion, and then at an appropriate point of time, open it to public discussion.
Okay, and one other thing, Mike, I remember you had mentioned to me last week that these are not traditionally, when taxes or assessments are done by the municipalities, it's done on the megawatts being put out, not on the cost of the project.
Right. We've been in discussions, with ORPS, the Office of Real Property Tax Services, and while there have not been any projects built that have been assessed where the developer has challenged the assessment to get case law precedent, it's not unlike a hotel. It's an income approach, not a cost approach. And that's a big issue because for an IDA to even attempt to do a project, we have to do by law, a cost comparison as to what the value of the benefits and incentives that we grant are. And, if a project did come to us in a community where it was endorsed, then I think we're going to have to go out and find an appraiser to have to do an appraisal based on full taxes. And that would give us some additional insight into what the value of the IDA's benefit would be. But I don't know that I haven't been able to find any example yet as to how that would be done. The other thing is, focusing in on zoning, planning, and comprehensive plan approvals. It doesn't make any sense for an IDA to approve a project that doesn't have the regulatory approvals necessary to proceed. And so, at the same time, that in many ways would, provide control, because one of the things that you brought up, Mr. Chairman, is, what is the precedent of doing this for one industry? And what, at Supervisor Mettler's request, Rob Fitzsimmons, the county attorney, Chairman Morrell, the chair of the Board of Supervisors, and I had a call with Copeg's attorney in Rochester, and their suggestion, when I said, how would, assuming that the board did decide that there was, they would not involve themselves in a project that didn't have local approval, how would we measure that local approval? Is it a 5-0 vote of a town board? Is it a 3-2 vote? Is it a public referendum? No matter how many approve, you're going to have people who disapprove. And their recommendation was to use the zoning and planning, is a project consistent with local zoning and planning? And, that I think helps us with the precedent issue, because as an example, Hudson IDA just approved a $12 million hotel project. But it only voted on it after the planning board and zoning boards had issued their approval of the project. So I think, we want to have something that's respectful of home rule, but that enables towns where projects are, where they want to proceed with them, an opportunity to have the vehicle to do so, but pointing out if there's a community desire to move forward with a project, they don't need the IDA. The state law provides for the developer to negotiate directly with the municipality.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Any of the board members have any questions? I know there's a lot of a lot of information there to go over.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I'm Sarah Sterling. I want to welcome all the people on this call. This is very exciting to have so many people at one of our meetings. And I've been through a few of these questions before over power lines or other things. And I think it's Mike, I thank you for this. And I hope that we could post these notes. Sometimes if we have to wait for the minutes to be approved, it might be 2 months before these get on the website. I don't know if Mike's. I'll repeat this again, Mike. I'm hoping your remarks can be posted soon on the website, that we won't wait for the minutes to be approved, because I think what you've said is so important and informatory. They'd like to get them up so that the public can see them right away. And that's just, I think the home rule question is so important, particularly in this case, and because it's so important to the county. So I thank you, Mike, for giving us such a good explanation.
Thank you. And I just jumped out to get a bottle of water. So
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else on the board have any?
Yes, Bob Galuccio, and I what Sarah just said, very true. Mike, you did a great job on that. It's very informative. Thank you.
Okay, we will have public comments at the end of the meeting if there's anyone online that has any questions. So moving on.
And I would, there are a lot of nuances in what I gave a 100,000-foot summary on. So, I don't, we will also post, more detailed information, Sarah, because, I was at this initial discussion, wanted to give you a flavor for this. I welcome any comments, but just encourage people to understand that that this was not intended to be uh, intended to be an overview, not getting down into the specifics, which are very, very detailed at certain levels. But I think hopefully I gave you a good sense of the framework. And as you get into this and want more information, both Ted Gutterman, our IDA attorney, and I can drill down with you to better define some of the particulars. Mr. Chairman, we thought that it might be helpful to just do the public comments on solar now.
Yeah, yes, because I was just thinking that, Mike, myself.
That would be great.
We do have to go into an executive session like that.
And
So what we'll do,
our executive session relates to an offer we've received for a piece of property in the town of at the county's Commerce Park in Claverick, and that executive session under New York State law is permissible because it's to discuss the price of the sale of a piece of property, and we are strictly limited, and our council and I and the board are very respectful of those limits, that we can only discuss that particular subject matter in the meeting and not anything that we have discussed at any other part of the meeting or any other time.
okay, I'll open it up to the general public. Just state your name, address, and your question. Anyone have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, this is Darren Johnson, and I'm with Sensible Solar for rural New York. Most importantly, I just want to thank Mike and the members of the IDA today for having this discussion. And I think, Mike, the background that you provided your board members is greatly appreciated, and it is a complex issue. And I just want to share is that we invited our constituents to contact the IDA because we're trying to be proactive on this issue and make sure that all key decision makers and influencers, both at the local, state, and county levels, understand the town's position as well as Sensible Solar and the concerns that we have. And I think specific to a potential pilot, I think what has made Sensible Solar nervous is that Alex Campbell, the representative from Illinois-based Hecate Energy, has spoken publicly that Hecate would bring tax revenue to the region between 5 and 7 million, and based on the calculations that we've done, that would mean it would be a pilot, because if they were to pay 100% of real property tax based on the scope and size of the project, they would actually pay significantly more. And so I think because that has been communicated in many different public forums, we wanted to make sure that the members of the IDA understood our position and our concerns about giving any kind of tax incentives to Hecate, and especially at a time during a pandemic when we all obviously all know that county local budgets are struggling. And so we just want to make sure that if this project is to move forward, and I still think there's significant questions on whether it will, but if it does move forward, that just like any other business or homeowner, that they would be taxed appropriately. So most importantly, we just want to thank you for listening to us and having a thoughtful discussion about this.
All right. Anyone else? I'm sorry, Mike.
I just wanted to thank Darren. I look forward to our continued dialogue and discussion, and thank you for joining us today.
Any other questions? What we're going to do next, we got the
Wait a minute, we have a hand raised. I see,
I didn't see that on my screen, Mike. Okay.
it just jumped up. Miss Kirsten, is it? One benefit of all this is I'm gonna be able to, Mary Lou Kirsten,
It's
has her
probably
hand
Chris
raised.
Kirsten. He needs to unmute,
Okay,
or he might be on the phone separately for Hillsdale.
let's see, the hand raised.
It's the broadband problem,
Yes.
Hillsdale.
Is there a chance that you can hear us and that you can go off mute?
We don't have.
If not, is there anybody else? Anyone else have any comments or questions?
Oh, Jeannie Metler has her hand raised.
Supervisor Mettler?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, Mary Lou Kirsten might have actually been Chris Kirsten, who's the new supervisor in Hillsdale. Him. But as Darren said, I want to thank you for having begun the discussions of this very complex situation. A question has been raised by Mr. Tucker as to how one can judge the opinion or the opinion of a town with regard to a particular project. But just to make it clear to everyone on the call, the town board in Copac was unanimous in passing a resolution which opposes this project. And we didn't do that lightly because everyone on the board recognizes the serious demands of all of the state to address climate change. We do think it should be a statewide obligation, not an obligation of any single town alone. But it was a strong resolution, and I hope that if I send it to Mike, that perhaps it could be sent out to the entire board. We'd appreciate that because it does, I think, in several pages, sum up our concerns with regard to this particular project. Of course, as our attorney said, it's not just the opposition of the town, however that is measured, but also the fact that this project clearly is inconsistent with our comprehensive plan passed in 2011. It's inconsistent with our farmland protection plan passed in 2014. It's inconsistent with a solar law passed in 2017, and it violates our comprehensive zoning revision, which was passed in 2018. Most recently, we have made some modifications to our solar law in 2020, and of course, it violates that law as well. So I appreciate the fact that you are hearing from us, and I know that you've been flooded with mail, but that is a measure, I think, of the concern on the part of the people in Copac, and thank you for taking that into consideration. Thank you, Mike, for all of your time on this and your comprehensive discussion of it this morning.
Thank you, Supervisor. And I also want to thank those of you who responded to our email. And we do look forward to continued dialogue, both by email, by phone, and at these meetings. So please, there are about 23 people on the call. We're very grateful that we had Supervisor Mettler and Darian from the Rural Sustainable Solar Group as spokespeople. But if there's any citizen that would like to weigh in based on this conversation, we're happy to do it. I do see perhaps Supervisor Kirsten reattempting, but I also see his raising his hand again. But I also see his mute line on. Supervisor?
I would also just like to acknowledge that Deputy Supervisor Richard Wolf is also on the call and has been really at the forefront of our engagement on this issue, and that's Richard Wolf.
Okay. Thank you.
I will follow up with Supervisor Kirsten after the call, if since it doesn't appear we can get him off mute, but it doesn't. We have no control over that. It's this is set up for everyone to be able to weigh in when they want. Mr. Chairman, if there are no other comments on this, I can certainly go on with asking our counsel, Mr. Gutterman, to review the proposed fee schedule. And then I can update you on the 3 projects, and we can then discuss the land sale issue.
Okay. We're all set. Ted, would you want to go over, we're going to go over the the proposed IDA fee schedule?
Sure, that would be fine. So, we recently had a project come before us, and the thought process of the board is, since this project only wanted one of the 3 financial benefits that the IDA has available, which was the mortgage recording tax savings, that perhaps we should just look at our current fee schedule and maybe adjust it where an applicant, particularly where an applicant is not looking for all 3 of the possible benefits that the IDA has to offer. So I redid the fee schedule for discussion purposes only. So this is just preliminary. But what I said, the application fee doesn't change. That's currently the same application fee, $1,000 for projects costing up to $5 million and $2,000 for projects that will have a cost of more than $5 million. And we also continue to, we have in our current fee schedule that if an application continues for more than 6 months, any extension requires payment of a quarter of the agency administrative fee. So if that was $1,000, it would mean another $250 for every 6 months. But what I said what I would suggest for your consideration for new projects is basically 1% of the cost for projects up to $5 million, and anything over $5 million would be $50,000, which would be that 1% plus half of the amount over $5 million. And then also proposing that if the applicant is only seeking sales tax exemption or mortgage tax exemption, but not both, that the fee might be pegged at 40% of the amount of the otherwise fee that the applicant would pay for all 3 proposed benefits, and that if they are asking for 2 of the 3 benefits but not a pilot, the fee would be 60% of the fee otherwise to be charged for all 3 benefits. And I just thought that would be better to give the IDA board some specific language in connection with these projects that are less than where the applicant asks for less than all 3, where you don't have to necessarily discuss each project separately and have different fees for different projects. You're more uniform now with regard to a situation where there's the applicant's asking for only one possible financial benefit or only 2 of the 3 financial benefits and not a pilot. So that's, I view this as a starting point of the discussion, whatever the board's input is and whatever the board decides, I can write it up as you want it.
Any questions?
I think that while it has an asterisk that we were going to require action, I think in our tradition of not considering something of this magnitude at the meeting that it's first discussed, and particularly with the remote forum here, that we'd ask that you take this and review it. Ted is available to discuss it and provide his counsel, and then we would have a full discussion of it at our next meeting. I do think it helps ensure that we have some guardrails as to how we would approach projects that don't want or need all 3 of the benefits without doing it on an ad hoc basis.
Okay.
Yeah. That would be helpful if you could Ted, if you could send that around, the proposal in writing. I made some notes, but
Sure. I sent it, but I'll be glad to send it out to all the board members immediately after the meeting.
Yep.
oh, I see. Is that what's on? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there's a
Right here in
draft
front of me.
That's okay. We had a lot of material this month.
I know.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was in the material, but I didn't.
It
Wasn't
is, it is.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Mr. Chairman, the next 2 items,
Yeah.
real quick. We did have a letter from GTEL indicating that after multiple conversations with their lender in connection with their broadband expansion project, it has been determined that the lender was unwilling to have the IDA become party to its mortgage, or for GTEL and the IDA to engage in a leaseback. As a result, GTEL, and I'm reading, has no ability to pursue this project with the IDA, and they make a formal request to withdraw their application for the above referenced assistance. And further request that we waive any fees associated with the application, as the transaction could not be completed due to no fault of GTEL. All of which is true, but again, I consulted with counsel, and Ted, I guess we found no basis on which to return a non-refundable fee in this case.
That's correct. It's once the fee is paid, it becomes public money.
And under the terms of the application, the applicant is responsible for legal fees incurred. And in this case, it was about $7,500 between Hudson Russ and our counsel and our 1,000. So, we understand, perhaps frustration is the best word, that the transaction couldn't go forward and there were expenses incurred. But unfortunately, we have no way of either not releasing them from their commitment to pay the attorneys or returning their fee. So unless there are any questions, this was primarily a report.
And then you got Clock Distilleries.
Right. We continue to work with both Clock Estate Distillery. It's a $14 million brandy distillery project in Claverick. It's moving forward. We're getting close to finalizing the $325,000 grant that Columbia County was able to access for them through New York State's Office of Community Renewal. They are currently using equity to move the project forward, and when they get to a point of deciding what best route to finance the project is, they will be back in touch with us. So it's still on the agenda. This was one of the projects that we had hoped to close this year, but it is moving forward. They're continuing to make investments, and I'm optimistic we'll see them in 2021.
Okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to go into executive session for the matter of the IDA some Commerce Park property, and also, I believe, Mike, we still have a personnel matter to discuss.
Yes.
Okay, so
So I guess, if we could, wish all of our non-board members a happy holiday. Thank all of those who are here as a result of the solar discussion. Express our appreciation for you joining us and look forward to continuing the dialogue. But ask that non-board members at this point leave the call.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you all. Happy holidays.
thank you all. I'm gonna need a motion to go into executive session. of executive session?
Aye.
To finish up, we have two, we're gonna have two proposals. The first one is,
What? Go ahead.
Resolution to confirm termination of the proposed sale of a Commerce Park lot to Kaiser, Kaiser Well Drilling, by exchange of general leases and refunding $2,000 to Kaiser, which was a portion of the original down payment.
okay, I need someone make
I'll
motion.
make that motion.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. The second one we have is for the parcel in Commerce Park to have authorizing Mike and Ted to come up with a contract, which will come to the board so we can look at it and then vote on it. Did I say that right, Ted?
Yeah, perfect. Yep.
Okay, I need a motion.
I make a motion, Cappy.
Second,
Sterling, second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, so moved. Are
I've got
there
a
any
question.
Excuse me, Sarah?
I have a question.
Sure.
Well, we still have Ted. You mentioned the other 5-acre parcel that's wetlands, can't be developed. Is it adjacent to Mud Creek, and could we give them that so to clear up our books? Or was there some restriction we have to keep it?
We can look into that. I've met with the new head of the Land Conservancy. You know, we can, Ted and I will take a look at that.
Okay, thanks.
All right, is there any public comment at this time?
I just want to thank you all. I thought I was apprehensive as to how our conversation would go this morning, but I think fortunately by open transparency and communication and your listening, I think we got to the next step. I'm not sure it won't get contentious going forward, but
I appreciate all your efforts, Mike. You really, really helpful.
Yeah, Mike had explained this. So this is it's one of these things where the state can override the municipalities, which is a.
But I was fearful that they were going to start nitpicking that, you know, but I think that be able to have the supervisor and the leader of the group that's most strongly opposed speak, that I think the others felt that they were being heard. So thank you.
Yeah. That said, if there's no more public comment, anyone left? If not, we'll need a motion to close the IDA meeting.
I make a motion.
Second,
Sterling?
all those approve, in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Happy holidays and thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Happy holidays.
Ted.